But it's just a recent example of how I think we learn about, what's the proper thing to do. And of course, the root of that is respect. It's not about, following rule one, rule number two. It's so that we have our proper respect for people. That just makes our relationships flow much better.
I want to try to compare it to the West, but honestly, it's difficult to do that because what I find from coming from America is that there are different families with different customs, and some may be, more respectful to their elders in their families, and some might be less so. So I think it's difficult for me to say, well, China is like this and America's like that, because America is not, in the same way that China's not a monolith, and there are probably families that don't carry out all of these rules, in the same way that your family does. America is not a monolith, and also does, different families have different traditions and different histories, and because they're from Italy or they're from America, or they're from Latin America, they're from Asia. And so all the families, whether they be first or second or third generation, are going to be different in how they express themselves with the elderly. But I do notice that there is a bell curve towards putting people in homes and kind of putting them away from the family as opposed to having them at home.
Well, first of all, you have to have these senior homes to be able for them to go, because some elderly might not even want to live with their children either, right? If they can have a nice place that offer themselves freedom and allow their kids more freedom, then why not, right? They can still visit each other, and I think it will become more popular here in China too. It's just one more option, right? And also, it is not easy for people like middle-aged people to be taking care of their own parents and then their kids at the same time. Right? Sometimes it works out because the grandparents help to take care of the grandkids.
Yeah.
But other times it's just maybe they're sick, or for other reasons, it can't be done. And then there's the option of senior homes, which I think is a good thing. Yeah.
I actually have come around to this because I've been living here quite a bit. And recently my wife's mother was living with us. And before my wife's mother lived with us, I was like, oh gosh, I hope I don't have to live with my in-laws. Oh gosh. But afterwards I was like, it's not so bad. It was actually kind of cool. She cooked all the time. There was constantly a stream of food flowing from the kitchen. It was like, this is actually kind of nice.
Yeah. And also because even if she nags, you don't really understand what she's saying. So it helps a bit.
It was better than that, baby. She always took my side in every argument.
Really?
Oh yeah. Well, she was always I could tell she was berating my wife. She's like, you should listen to Jason more. And I was like, oh, okay, thank you, mom and mother-in-law. Maybe we got a place for you.
I think that, the other day we were talking about the degrees of assimilation into Chinese culture. I think being able to live with in-laws is really high on the list. Like, you've made it that far, Jason. It's hard for me to think of something else that's even higher above that. Because I think central to American culture is, of course, individualism, right?
Yeah, absolutely. That's a really good point.
Yeah, like we should have our freedom, our own space, and people make fun of living with your in-laws. And I won't say it's common, but, that's the case in a lot of families.
You do get those insults where it's like, oh, who's this guy? He's probably living in his mom's basement jokes. I think right now in the last 2 or 3 years, because the economy in the U.S. has been not as wonderful as it has been in the past. It's more families are living together right now. And so I think it's less stigmatized. But, the larger arc since like 1940s and 1950s is that families, as soon as you turn 18, it's time to move out, which was the case with me. My parents were like, Jason, you need to get out of the house. We want you to go find your own way.
Wait, so how did that conversation actually go?
My mom came to me and said, you're 18 and a half. It's time for you to go.
Were you at home? Were you in college? Or
no, I didn't actually start university until I was like 20 or 21.
Okay, so you stayed at home for a bit after high school. Did you work?
Yeah, I was working, but I lived at home and I was just living like a free-for-all life, doing whatever I wanted. Like, I just took my money and then I'd go hang out with my friends until my money was gone. And my parents, I was 18 or something about that. And my parents were like, he needs to go learn what it means to pay bills, what it means to try to have a home, what it means to pay. This is kind of an American practice. It's like, okay, boot to the bottom, get out, go out there and figure out what the world's really like. See, here's the thing that I think that needs to be said is that if right now, if I said, Mom, I want to move back in with you for a couple of years even and like get my feet and maybe get a new degree, she'd be like, okay, no problem. I'd love to have you back. And that's a different thing because now I know how to live my life. And if I was moving back, it would be for a purpose.
That's true.
When you get to a certain age in America, it's kind of like the little bird where mommy bird has to push the baby birds out of the nest to make sure.
You've got feathers already. Out you go.
Yeah, you can fly. Yeah, mommy's not going to throwing up food into your mouth anymore.
It's out of love. And also there are 4 of you.
Yeah, 4 sons.
Yeah,
right.
so and sons, right? I think sometimes, especially here, I guess families treat their daughters and sons sometimes a little differently.
Well, how so? How so?
They would pamper the girls a bit more. It's probably, similar elsewhere too. Right? Because girls, parents just want to protect them a little bit more. But guys, you got to go out and find a job. It's like, you got to know how to make a living. No one wants to pay for your bills. So yeah, well, maybe not for every family.